Well, welcome once again to Unity of Tucson. What a glorious, glorious day it is. Oh, I am so delighted to see all these magnificent faces before me. Just taking it all in for a moment. Just taking it all in for a moment. Why, thank you, Laura. Laura said that you're delighted to see my face. Well, I'm delighted to be seen. Our purpose here at Unity of Tucson is to provide a safe, loving, and inclusive space where all people can explore the principles of New Thought. That's why we're here. What I have found is that the application of New Thought principles in my life has enhanced the quality of my life, and I believe that through this exploration, if you're open to it, you can master spiritual understanding, you can find personal purpose, and develop a spiritual path. And so that's what we're here to do. Now, I also say every single week that you may not believe everything you hear today. You may not. That's okay. You're not required to believe what I believe. You're not required to think what I think. And there may be things that you hear today that butt up against your belief system. And so if that happens, here's my recommendation. Don't just get upset about it, because it can feel upsetting if something like butts up against your belief system. Be willing to just take a look at it, free of judgment, and just say, maybe I can look at this as a belief system. Maybe I can look at this as a belief system. This is about as real as it gets. Maybe I can look at this as a belief system that I can apply in my life that will enhance the quality of my life. Or maybe the belief system I currently hold is something that is enhancing the quality of my life. You get to decide. We are a philosophy that is all about infinite choice. And so feel free to make your own decisions, your own choices around how you relate to this thing called love, this thing called light, this thing called life, this belief system, which is what we're all about here. Now, we have a vision and a mission here at Unity of Tucson. I would love for us as a community to first say out loud these words of our vision statement. Let's say this together. We envision a world awakened to its magnificence. I spent some time away this week on Thursday. I know people are like, yes, he finally left the office. I went to northern Arizona on Thursday, spent the day on Friday at the Grand Canyon, and we returned yesterday. And part of what happens is, I've gotten in the habit now, as opposed to before when I was preparing my Sunday message on a Sunday morning, getting up at 4:30, I've stopped doing that, and I've started preparing my talks in advance. And I sat down at our Airbnb on Friday night and typed up what I thought I might talk about today. And I just want to give you fair warning. It is all over the place. It is all over the place. And I was inspired by the song, and I was inspired by the very arbitrary talk title that I gave to Sherry to put into the email before I left. I said, I don't know, just call it Connect George. And so as I was ruminating on what this would be today, it feels like it goes a little all over the place, but it is rooted in, I think, the theme of the month, which is allowing the self to explore curiosity with abandon. Not having to worry about having it be so structured in a specific way that I'm going to get myself all tied into knots around what I think it should be. I'm just going to let it be. I'm just going to let it be and allow myself to go on this journey and invite you on this journey with me. So the talk title, I will explain, is a reference. You ready? It's a Broadway reference. Shocker, I know. There is, I mentioned several weeks ago that my favorite musical of all time is Sunday in the Park with George. And there is a common thing that the title character, George, says repeatedly throughout the show. He keeps reminding himself, connect, George, connect. The title character is an artist. He was an innovator of his time, Georges Seurat, who was the pointillist painter. And you would recognize his work even if you can't bring it to mind immediately. So he says throughout the experience, connect, George. He is talking to himself, seeking something beyond the mundane. In saying, connect, George, he is inviting himself to intuit extraordinary insight into what his creation in the world will be. And so I find that very moving personally. I find that entire story, and a lot of the musical story is made up because not much is known about his actual life. But the idea of what an artist goes through, what a creator goes through, and we are all creators. Whether we know it or not, we are always in the state of creation. Whether we call it art or we call it life, we are always in a state of creating. And life can be art, and we can allow ourselves to intuit extraordinary insight into the expression of our life as art. I like to think of that character, George, I like to think of his journey as a call for each and every one of us to look deeper. To always be looking deeper, both creatively and spiritually. That phrase, connect, and we could all put our own name there. Connect, Jonathan. Connect. That phrase highlights a desire to bridge the gap between the inner world and our outer expression. And in his style of painting, pointillism, which is where he basically, I'm doing it like they do like Mandy Patinkin does in the musical. Basically, his brushstrokes were all of these little dots, on the canvas, and he would take the paint and just keep painting dots. And it wasn't like, strokes. It was literally the whole painting is dots. At least most of his work was this. The most famous one, Sunday on the Island of La Grande Jatte. It's all dots. And I also think about the way that those dots work together to create a whole. And it is almost as if unity is being expressed through multiplicity. Each and every one of those dots is required for the whole to take shape and be expressed. And we are like those dots. We are required for the whole to take shape and be expressed. The title of this week's talk also made me think of another George, and that George is a monkey. Did anyone think about Curious George? I mean, the theme of the month is curiosity, and here I'm coming up with the name George, and of course, Curious George comes to mind. I grew up with Curious George. I loved those books as a child, and if you know Curious George, this monkey is getting into all kinds of trouble, right? And the man in the yellow hat is always there to support him in, guiding him along the way. But George loves to get into all kinds of stuff. There's this one scene in one of the books where he's playing with the buttons on the telephone, right? And he accidentally dials the emergency number, I guess 911. And the fire department shows up, and they're all confused. There's no fire, but there's a monkey. Very confused. But his curiosity, I think, is a call to the inner curious, the curious inner child within each and every one of us. Now, that curiosity leads to unexpected adventures, but also to life lessons, right? And if we have the willingness, we can go on this unexpected journey and find the life lesson within that unexpected journey. Curiosity, which is really about questioning and exploring every aspect of being. I think that is essential for personal spiritual growth. I was a seeker long before I became a minister. I think about the times when I was working as an actor in Los Angeles, and it was almost like I was being sought out in a way, because there were many people in my sphere who were constantly saying, hey, there's this great spiritual community that we think that you would really resonate with. And I was like, I don't do church. I don't do that. I don't do that Sunday morning thing. That was me for most of my life. And curiosity invited me into a new thought space, finally, after years of invitations and nudges. And that opportunity to sit and question and explore truly benefited my life. I say each week that applying the principles of new thought into my life has enhanced the quality of my experience. I will live by that until it no longer does that. If the principles of new thought cease to enhance the quality of my experience, I will be the first to abandon them. But you're the minister. Yes, I am. And I'm telling you, we are all at choice in terms of how we live our lives. This is one path. This is one path, and it resonates with my soul right now. There was a question about what it is to be a member of this community that came up in the last week as well. And I said to this person, I said, there's no obligation other than you've made a commitment in your own heart that this is the right place at this time for you. And if that ever ceases to be, go find what works. Go find where you are spiritually fed. Go find where you are spiritually nourished. I am not here to keep people in the seats and lock the doors. That's not what I'm all about. It's not what I'm all about. I seek to offer a philosophy that works for me. And if it works for you, that's awesome. So I think that our inner child can relate to that monkey. My inner child certainly relates to that monkey. I was like, I'm hearing voices. Because George, what he does is he's often breaking, usually unknowingly. He doesn't know that he's breaking common sense rules. Oh, common sense rules, right? He's breaking those rules in a desire to understand more about his experience, more about his life. And the New Thought philosophy itself is rooted in the breaking of common sense rules. What was thought to be common sense at the time that New Thought was being developed was what was being pushed up against by these leaders in thought, these leaders in metaphysical understanding, these leaders, the Fillmores, Melinda Kramer, Nona Brooks, Ernest Holmes, all of these leaders, all of these people who were developing movements within the New Thought umbrella, they were breaking the rules. We are rule breakers in this philosophy. We are rule breakers. I've said it before that the history of the New Thought movement was set forth in a book, and that book is titled Spirits in Rebellion. That should give us all an understanding of who we are within this thing called life. We who come to these particular communities, I think, are rebels in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. So we can look at this impulsive curiosity, at our own impulsive curiosity. We can look at George's impulsive curiosity as reckless. We can look at it that way, or we can look at it as boldly leaving behind the mundane to experience the extraordinary. Where do you want to be in that? I choose to leave behind the mundane to experience the extraordinary. That's what I want to do with my life. We can nurture this nature. We can embody this nature within each and every one of us to allow our lives to become more extraordinary in every single moment. And it takes persistence. I'm replacing the word work. It takes persistence. It takes consistency. Not a foolish consistency, but a consistency in allowing ourselves to say, in spite of what we perceive in the world of form, which may seem contrary to our inner life, that our inner life is what is contributing to the outer expression. That consistency, what we repeatedly do, that consistency becomes excellence in our lives. Will Durant, who studied the work of Aristotle, he basically summed up the work of Aristotle by saying this: we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. And so are we allowing ourselves to develop the excellence of habit through our curious exploration of the world and our life within it and our place within this thing called life? I am always in relationship to everything in my sphere. And I can either allow myself to explore it with curiosity at the heart of that exploration, or I can settle back into those common sense rules and decide that perhaps that doesn't work for me because it doesn't fit the mold. I choose not to fit the mold. Our small, consistent acts of curiosity can build habits of excellence in everyday life. And we have plenty of examples of how that can unfold. I think one of the great examples that I always think about in relationship to allowing the idea of that curiosity to take hold, one of the people that I think demonstrated that beautifully was Steve Jobs, one of the founders of Apple. If you don't know much about him, one of the things that he did when he was in university, he audited a calligraphy course. Did you know that? Yeah, he audited a calligraphy course simply out of curiosity. Just wanted to go see what it was all about, right? So he audits this calligraphy course, and the habit he developed in this calligraphy course led to an emphasis in his work in design when he was creating Apple products. And so that curiosity allowed him to open up something, a sense of wonder, a sense of exploration within himself that we all interact with. Well, many of us interact, not all of us. I know not all of us are Apple people, but many of us, I'm an Apple person, by the way, many of us interact with this seed that was planted in a calligraphy course back when Steve Jobs was in university. And that's how it can be for any one of us. What is our curiosity leading to in the unfoldment and exploration of life? I suspect, and I invite you to take a moment to just consider this, because I suspect this may be so, that we, each and every one of us, may have had an experience early on that still informs us today. An experience rooted in curiosity. So, and this is a rhetorical question, not seeking answers here. I'm seeking your own personal reflection for yourself. What is an early experience you have had that informs you to this day? See if there's anything that comes up for you. What is an early experience you had in your life that informs you today? Whatever comes up for you, I'm compelled to say two things. One, honor it. Honor it. And two, know that it is not the final defining factor for who you are. Because that curiosity can also lead to another curiosity and another curiosity and another curiosity. And all of a sudden, you may reflect back on all the curiosities you've had in your life and say, wow, what an extraordinary experience I have had by not allowing myself to be rooted in the common sense, mundane rules of life. So this journey to Spain that is referenced in the song, thank you so much for letting us know a little bit more deeply about what that song is about. That journey to Spain, which I can relate to, is, I think in many ways, a step-by-step pursuit of the singer of the song in a quest for freedom, a quest for transformation, a quest for new beginnings, and being able to express and exhibit these. We are each and every one of us stars. Each and every one of us is a star. We are a unique light in this life, just like Daniel, just like the singer of the song, just like everyone. I did a talk many years ago reflecting on a children's album. I told you it's all over the place today. Reflecting on a children's album that I had growing up, and it was an LP, so vinyl. Remember that? And the title of the album was called Lumiere. And it was about this young boy who goes on an adventure to uncover the truth of his own being. And what he finds is that he is an infinite light shining forth. And he begins to understand that this is true for every single person he encounters. Everyone is a star. Everyone is a light. Daniel's a star. You're a star. We're all stars. Let our light shine. Let our light shine. It is our unique light, I believe. It is our unique light that is needed desperately in this world right here and right now. our quest for deeper understanding, our dedication to remain curious can help us navigate what we might perceive as problems in the world. Anyone perceiving any problems in the world? Your light, I want to be very clear, your light is what can help navigate through those perceived problems. And I use the word perceived very purposefully because I believe that all problems are perceptions. All problems are the result of consciousness. And in consciousness, we find solutions. So everything is perception. Everything in our relationship to the world is perception. And if we are seeking to change something in the world of form, it is not about trying to manipulate and change the world of form. It is not to say don't take action in a way that is meant for you to be in action, but allow yourself to be rooted in the perception of solution rather than the perception of problem. Let that be the core from which your consciousness is unfolding and operating in your life. And in that, we will allow solutions to come into expression, and perhaps solutions that are not rooted in the common sense rules. I'm going to butcher this Greek name. Epictetus. That's it? Yay! He was a first century Stoic philosopher. He offered this. He said, one is not worried by real problems so much as one's imagined anxieties. Ooh, that resonates with me. One is not worried by real problems so much as by one's imagined anxieties. We're much more adversely affected by what we believe to be so about our experience of the world than what the actual world is unfolding, the way the actual world is unfolding. If we were to shift our thinking just a little bit, each and every one of us, we could collectively transform the experience of life on this planet, in this universe. Because one alone in consciousness with the infinite constitutes a complete majority. You constitute a complete majority to the degree that you understand your mind, your consciousness, your approach as the mind of God, the mind of the divine, the mind of infinite spirit, because infinite spirit is all there is. You cannot be separate from it. So fear, we let fear be constructed in their minds. And there is a practicality, there is a historic practicality to fear being part of our experience because it is rooted in safety. I get that. Y'all don't need to tell me that. I get told that it's like, I would say, love overcomes fear, but fear is an important part of our life sometimes, right? Fear is there to inform us of something. But what I would like to know is, have we applied fear to aspects of life where it is not necessary? That's the thing to start thinking about. Am I applying fear to aspects of life where fear is not necessary? Just because that's what I know. Just because that's what I know. And am I willing to step back and allow that fear to dissipate, to no longer allow that fear to rule my life? Fear is constructed in our minds, and it can be dismantled in our minds. One of the primary places where fear may not be necessary is in our relationship to the unknown, the other. Othering is supported in media, and media keeps our minds rooted in fear. So what if, and that is the ultimate curiosity question as far as I'm concerned, what if we released that notion of fear and truly embraced the other? What if we all decided to do that? We didn't prejudge based on the outer appearance, but we allowed ourselves to understand the innate quality, the innate divine quality of every single person we encounter. When I know the truth of myself, I must understand it about every single person I encounter, and that has allowed me to release the experience of fear in my interactions. So what if? What if? If we were to embrace a curious mindset, I think we might reduce anxiety in our lives because we are seeking answers rather than assuming answers. Think about that. I think we might reduce anxiety by seeking answers rather than assuming answers. And I think that that is a pinnacle of spiritual growth. And we are all there, if we choose to be. If we choose to be. So the call today is to connect with a sense of curiosity. Connect, George. Connect, Jonathan. Connect. Insert your first name. Choose to connect. Connect with a mindset of infinite, spiritually grounded curiosity. Connect with self. Connect with that inner child, that endlessly curious part of us, unafraid to break free from convention. Connect with others. Curiosity can foster compassion, bridging divides, and the divides only exist in mind, so they're not real except to the degree that we allow them to be real. So you can let the divides go through curiosity and compassion. Connect with divinity, rooted in the understanding of our identity as divinity. Approaching life with a curious heart deepens our experience and understanding of spiritual truths and a sense of that innate divine identity which we all share. So, connect. Peace and blessings. The home practice this week is to purposefully seek to engage in thoughtful conversations this week. This may be with someone with whom you have a disagreement, but here's the thing about that. Just like we're invited to in one of the 4 agreements, don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions in those interactions. Seek to understand rather than to inform. And think about the manner of our conversations. Sometimes we seek to inform rather than to understand, and I'm inviting us all to turn that around this week and seek to understand rather than inform. That's the home practice this week.